Suddenly, the speakers of the terminal cracked, and a mare said in a pathetic tone, "Any Hoofington Guard units? This is Security Chief Cloverleaf at the Hoofington Museum. We're under attack." On the monitor, I saw an image of ponies with SMGs and black security armor similar to my own, sweeping through the museum. I cringed at the sight of mothers and young children gunned down without hesitation. "They override the lockdown. They're using machine guns. They're killing every pony." Behind her voice came the rising crackle of automatic fire chattering away. "Please, send help immediately. This is Security Chief Clover." The door behind her clicked open, and a unicorn wearing unmarked black armor appeared in the doorway. Without hesitation, she raised the glowing Zebra 10mm SMG and put a burst into the mare's back. She trotted over to the corpse and put a hoof on the little device clipped to her ear. "You too to team leader. Security is pacified. I don't think she got a signal out." "No, sir. It looked like the jamming worked." There was a muffled explosion that shook the cameras. "We're collecting them now, sir." "Yes, sir." 5 minutes to extraction." "Yes, sir." "Help," gurgled Cloverleaf, still barely alive after all. "Sure." The unicorn in black armor looked down and pointed her SMG. There was a brief burst. "There. You're helped. All of you were dead anyway." She turned and ran for the door. "Come on, ponies. We've got half an hour till showtime. Move it!" "Showtime?" Glory muttered in horror as she stared at the monitor. They knew? They knew that the bombs were going to fall. How could they have known and not tell any pony? How could any pony do that? I felt a cold horror inside too, but it was mitigated by 200 years of radioactive barbarianism and a half-dozen zebra troopers. "I don't know," I groaned as I rose to my hooves. "But it doesn't matter now. Those zebra must have been after some rocks, but they're 2 centuries too late." I lifted the sword and looked in the direction Lancer had fled. "I'm going to find that sneaky bastard and cut him apart alphabetically." Then I glanced at her. The recording had rattled her terribly. I wondered if it was her emphasis on loyalty or the sheer monstrosity of what they'd done. "What should I start with?" She blinked and then looked at me and swallowed. "Depending on how specific you want to get, you could start with abdomen or something." "Maybe the amygdala?" "Amygdala? Is that the dangly thing in your throat, right?" I asked her with a grin as I closed my slightly perforated armor up. "No, that's the uvula. The amygdala is found..." She stopped herself when she saw my look and flushed. "Right. Joking. Catching on." "'Cause you're a smart pony," I said as I tapped her head. I stepped on the door he'd disappeared through and stopped short. Wow, that was a lot of mines. Well, have horn, will disarm. I smacked the tab on the first mine with a magic and stepped forward to pick it up. Then, without warning, the mine exploded in my face. As I fell back, the redundant pony display once again flashed to life and told me my forelegs were severely crippled. I screamed as I sat, feeling the blood dripping down my limbs. "He tampered with the mines, that bastard!" I shouted as I brought out vigilance and blasted at the mines and any pony that dared poke their head down the hall. Maybe he'd wired them so that they detonate when disarmed. Wouldn't that be a sneaky trick? Well, I always wondered why any pony would make a landmine you could disarm by pressing a button on top, she remarked, as she dug out a fresh healing potion and dribbled it right on my bleeding forelegs to help focus their healing powers where needed. I sighed in relief and satisfaction as one mine and then the next, detonated and filled the hallway with the reek of cordite. What was the point of having a brand new razor-sharp sword if you didn't get to have a striped bastard to try it out on? "Blackjack!" P-21 bellowed from the museum atrium. I let my breath hiss out through my teeth. I really wanted some zebra to test the sword on. particularly a zebra who murdered and had shot me in the back. Twice. I almost started back down the hall after him when I saw Glory's worried look and grunted. Fine. Hopefully P-21's handled the bomb and... hello. Another bomb sat right under the terminal. I looked at the sickly glowing egg, heard my pip buck clicking, and knew that where there were two, there were definitely more. I ran back to the security office door and looked out. My friends were at the front door, shielded by Lacuna and her burst of suppressive fire at the balcony sniper. Rampage's armor looked like it was a dented can of cram, and she was still fighting brutally against one of the zebra melee specialists. The other was smeared across the information desk. I had no idea what language they were speaking, but boy did that zebra look pissed. Now if only Lancer could make an appearance. I ran down and stepped carefully through the shield, my whole body tingling as it passed through the magical barrier. Lacuna's dress was almost shredded, and her purple hide showed a number of significant injuries. Still, she stood with poise and focus as she fired her weapon in controlled bursts. I doubted she had much ammo left, though. "Tell me you disarmed them," I shouted as I looked at the zebra attackers. "Them?" He yelled back over the gunfire, his eyes wide. "I couldn't. They were wired to a remote detonator." My main did not like this one bit. The zebras weren't withdrawing, but Lancer was nowhere to be seen, and there were a lot of really bad explosives in this place. What were the odds that Lancer'd sacrifice his own zebras to cover his escape? "Lacuna, get us outside! Now!" I shouted. Her purple eyes widened as she looked down at me. "The shield will drop when I cast the spell, and Rampage will need to be closer." That meant ending her dancing, twisting duel with her striped opponent. "Got it. Glory, Scotch, P-21. Keep the sniper's head down," I said as I stepped out of the shield, feeling every hair on my mane tingle from the magical charge. I had no time for flashy hoof-to-hoof combat at the moment. "Sorry, Rampage," I yelled as the bubble dropped and Lacuna's horn began to glow. Immediately, the zebras rose to fire, but ducked out of sight again as our fire sprayed at the balcony. "ETA?" She glanced at me as I racked the shotgun and blasted at her striped attacker. Rampage caught more than a little friendly fire, but her opponent dropped in a bloody striped heap. Okay, so not the most honorable thing to do, but... "Future air!" she snarled as she planted her forehooves and swept her rear hooves in an arc that knocked my legs out from under me. I flipped in the air as she halted and blasted me into the air with a double hoof rear kick. Suddenly, I was getting a much better view of the roof before I came back down in Glory's grasp. Only my armor had kept me from getting disemboweled by Rampage's hoof claws. Glory beat her wings furiously to keep me aloft as I coughed and hacked. "Get us outside." With an electric crickle and a purple flash, we disappeared and reappeared out in the rain next to the subway stairs. I slipped from Glory's hooves just as a very pissed Rampage yelled something in zebra and actually somersaulted into the air to bring her hooves down with a fearsome blow. I dove to the side, rolling across the broken asphalt. I really did not need this right now. Lancer could be setting up an attack, or worse, getting away. I really wanted to check another enemy off my list. Unfortunately, Rampage had entered a spinning, kicking, thrashing frenzy against us. "You will not harm her," she swore in an oddly accented voice. P-21 was raked by her tail. When was I going to force him to wear some barding? Sneakiness be damned. She launched herself, rolling in a ball and bringing her razor spines down on my face. I rolled completely on my back, all four hooves and every bit of magic I had in my horn pushing against her. The tips of her blades nearly perforated me from pelvis to sternum as I shoved her back into the air. I could only watch in amazement as she unrolled, twisted in midair, and landed on all four hooves. "Fuck me," I muttered. She reared above me and brought her four hooves down with a crushing blow. I lifted my sword horizontally, catching her hoof claws as she glared down at me with murder in her eyes. I didn't have Mallet's magical strength, and had to press my forehooves across the flat side of the single-edged blade. She was stronger and heavier, and her head tilted down to point that helmet saber right at my throat. "Rampage?" I rasped as Glory and Lacuna alike blasted her thick armor. P-21 and Scotch Tape watched helplessly as my legs slowly bent under her weight. "Sorry about this." "Etta?" She blinked as I levitated the gun to her chin and stared into her eyes. "Sweet Celestia!" P-21 swore as Rampage's body went completely rigid, a cascade of blood, brain, and bone splattering onto my face as she fell. Scotch Tape screamed in horror as she backed away. Glory landed and started to approach when I gave her a warning look. I hoped Rampage would be back, but I didn't want to take risks. I wiped a leg across my face and pointed vigilance steadily at Rampage as pink light shone. Even Lacuna seemed at a loss as I waited for her brains to regenerate. She opened her pink eyes and glared at me as I held the gun less than an inch from her left eye. "Are you in control?" I asked softly over the hissing rain. "You had no right to interfere," she spat, muttering something in zebra. I heard the crash and roar of the bombs going off, felt the pressure blast against us, saw the light of the fireball flooding through the parking lot. Firelight from the burning ruins bathed us both, but I didn't blink. Neither did she. Not even with chunks of the building raining down around us. Lacuna blocked the largest pieces with her shield as Rampage and I kept our gazes locked. Getting us away from that gave me the right. "Because you think that I can heal when I'm eager to get shot? You think that because I volunteer to fight against my own, that you can just gun us both down?" she said, hissing in rage. "You ponies. I gave my oath of loyalty. I swore my allegiance to my home, and you shoot me?" She spat in my face. I didn't blink or wipe it away as I kept the gun steady. This wasn't Rampage. I wondered what cutie mark was under her armor. Thorns, tentacles, something else. "What is your name?" I asked, as I moved the gun off her eye a little. Confusion entered her eyes as she started to look at us. "Shuja," she said, as she straightened a little. "Did you miss the red stripes? Are you colorblind?" She looked at my barding in suspicion. "You are not with the army." "No, I'm not. I'm sorry," I said as my mane prickled. "Shuja, do you know where you are?" She blinked and looked at the blasted ruins of the museum. Then she looked to the east, to the green glow around the black towers. "Hoovington, of course. Near Maramare, I think. We were overrun. Where are my friends?" Confusion and distrust were etched onto her face. "Where is Twist?" "Shuja, what is the last thing you remember?"